Today, we actually ask a lot of these questions first now. Do you have a clean definition of your audience? Does your go-to-market motion align with your audience? Are you trying to run ABM programs at Joe's Crab Shack or PLG programs at IBM? Are these things that will be like fatal flaws in any attempt to actually run an ad program? Because if you don't get your ducks in a row, starting at the bottom level with your brand and your content ideas, to your website and your digital experience ideas, to your data systems and all these things, if you don't build the pyramid first, pretty likely you're just going to light all that money on fire. And so we'd rather have you spend your money on building infrastructure that will last you for 5 years or 10 years and not just spend your money on like the gambling in Google and LinkedIn without a great chance of success.
Are you a scaling SaaS founder? Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where smart businesses run on RevOps. Because when marketing, sales, and customer success play in tune, revenue becomes more than just a goal, it becomes predictable. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. What does your brand feel like to your customer? Useful or unforgettable? In a world flooded with functional features and clever taglines, way too many companies forget that a brand isn't just what you do, it's what people remember about how you made them feel. In this episode today, we'll pull back the curtain on what it really takes to build a magnetic brand, one that creates emotional resonance, drives demand, and turns customers into passionate advocates, maybe like raving fans. You'll learn why effective branding isn't just for CPG unicorns like Liquid Death, but critical even for B2B SaaS companies, and especially in this AI world we live in now. We'll explore the balance between account-based marketing and product-led growth, how to avoid the trap of bottom funnel only tactics, and why brand risk often leads to outsized rewards. Plus, we'll dig into the untapped gold mine of advocacy marketing, because your best growth engine might just be the customers that you already have. How about that? If you're ready to think beyond clicks and conversions and start shaping a brand that lives in the hearts of your buyers, this episode is your blueprint. Let's jump in. Our expert guest last Thursday was Natalia Zacharin, founder of Zacharin Consulting. She showed founders how to shift from financial fog to clarity. She shared why understanding CAC, LTV, and runway isn't just for CFOs, and how quick, confident financial decisions can be the difference between scaling and stalling. And our founder last week was Laura Bell Main, CEO of SafeStack. She revealed how to embed security culture into your dev team and do it without slowing down your product, which is amazing. From reframing risk to retraining behavior, Laura gave startup leaders a playbook for making security a growth enabler, not a growth blocker. If you missed either one of those episodes, go back and check them out because they will knock your socks off. My guest today is Andrew Seidman, digital agency co-founder and B2B go-to-market strategist. He's here to unpack what it means to build brand, drive demand, and scale smarter in today's fragmented buyer journey. Andrew shares why founders need to stop treating brand as a logo and start seeing it as emotional leverage. He breaks down the power of standout positioning and explains why the best growth strategies combine product-led motion, account-based marketing, and content-fueled advocacy, not just bottom funnel tactics. Welcome someone who will help you rethink your approach to growth, Andrew Seidman. Hey, Andrew, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
Awesome, man. Awesome. You're a former poker player turned digital agency founder and go-to-market strategist, which is a really cool combination. What is the through line from the poker tables to pipeline generation?
Yeah, honestly, cutting your teeth as a professional gambler teaches you quite a lot of things about life. But I think a few of the ones that are really meaningful to me or valuable are avoiding what I might call like results orientation. Just because you closed the deal or you got the money doesn't mean that you did it right. And just because you are losing or not like making money or not having results doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. especially in something like advertising, for example. It's a variant game. It's not like you can just expect a one-to-one outcome. It's like you put something into the box, you shake the box, and then something else comes out. And while it's related to what you put in the box, it's not one-to-one. So I think differentiating between results and process, super important part of it. And then also just in general, from like an emotional or a leadership level, just not getting too high when things are good and not getting too low when things are bad. In gambling, again, like you can do a great job and lose consistently for a month. You can do a terrible job and win consistently for a year. And so what matters is really like thinking in the long term, is this process something that makes sense? Is it sound? And then expecting, even though the results may or may not come right now, like I'll expect good results in the long term, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's kind of flipping a coin and you get 10 heads in a row. What it's the probability is low, but it can happen.
It
And so
actually
just
happens.
because the results are one way or the other doesn't necessarily mean that the tactics or message is wrong.
It happens
But
way
how do you know
more
the
often than you
difference?
think. If you looked at a graph of flipping a coin, the results, like most people think it'll hug the bottom line, hug the zero, but instead it's like, nope, heads won 30 times in a row, and then tails won 50 times in a row, and it's actually much more variant than you'd expect. And I think that happens in even like the marketing or business environment is massively more complex than a poker game is. And even poker is like an incredibly complex game anyway.
Yes,
And so
it
you just
is.
have to accept, okay, there's a ton of variables outside of my control. Maybe I have a great product, but then some major player like Google or Meta just kills us. Or maybe they like do something that makes us viral. Like it's very hard to tell on its face, like what's luck and what's not luck. So you just have to focus on process and do the best you can.
How do you know the difference? How do you know if you're lucky or if you're good or if what you're doing just happened to have a great day or you got boosted by something or if it's actually working, the message is resonating and you can repeat it?
Yeah, it is a head trip regardless. There is no proof. And there's also a ton of survivorship bias. Like the people who are telling you what works may just be the ones who got lucky. And the best,
Yeah.
it's a common thing in poker that people know that many of the best poker players in the world no longer play poker because they got so unlucky they washed out. But they were the best. They just had the worst luck. And so it is a head trip and it's impossible to really know. But sometimes there are things where you can draw a line from process to results in a way that is somewhat meaningful. And I think a good example might be folks who really invest in developing, let's say, a brand presence. They really focus on their brand, how they're going to communicate their brand, and they actually don't worry as much about the like execution of like pipeline generation stuff down the road. They focus on this thing now. You can often see this through line where the brand starts to get traction, like natural organic traction in a way that just feels different than like a lot of the kind of more down funnel tactic stuff. And well, again, there's luck involved. Like maybe they just lucked into the right product market fit or they got some
Yeah.
benefit from the environment or whatever it is. You can still sometimes say, hey, this is a thing that we like a process that we did that ended up having results. And then from a tactical perspective, sometimes you can really prove it with hard numbers. So take gambling or poker as an example again. If I look at enough poker hands, I can draw a statistically significant conclusion that my strategy is good. It's not going to work over 100 hands, but it will work over a million hands. Like over a million hands, I'll be
Right.
able to see how much I win on average. And I think, especially in digital ads, this is the same kind of idea, which is okay, if you run your campaign for a week, it's unlikely to give you the statistical info you need that it's good or bad, even if you got 10 deals or you got 0 deals. But if you run it over 6 months with enough volume, you can actually start to really prove, okay, we're pretty confident that you put this many dollars in, you get this many dollars out. And you can actually draw a real conclusion from that starts from process but ends up in real results. But that trick of understanding, okay, what is this statistical significance? What does it actually mean to prove that this is good? Is tricky for a lot of reasons, not least of which is that for advertising, it takes a lot of money. And so a lot
Yeah.
of folks are not comfortable or not able to spend enough money to be truly confident if this is good or bad and have to do the best they can, which is no shame in it whatsoever. You just got to accept that you're going to gamble a little bit, if that makes sense.
It does. Well, in go to market, you're really working at the intersection of brand revenue and product led growth. What's the most common go to market mistake founders make in, say, the $3 to $20 million range?
Great question. I think It's hard to say if this is a mistake exactly, but there's often this big emphasis on pipeline now. And that makes sense. You have business goals, right? You need to raise the next round, or you're getting pressure from the board or something like that. Like you have pressure to show these kinds of immediate results. But there's usually only so much you can do to capture the very bottom of the funnel now. There's just not that much volume usually at the very bottom of the funnel. And it's usually relatively easily captured with Google Ads, with emails, with like conferences, like people who want to find you. It's easiest to find those who are actually seeking you out or are trying to buy your product or your service. The mistake that I think a lot of folks make is they just keep on pouring money and effort into the collection of bottom of funnel traffic when it's often no longer there. So you look at diminishing returns, for example, from a Google search campaign. You have your brand campaign and you have your high intent non-brand campaign. This is stuff that's like, if you sell CX software, it's buy CX software. That is like the keyword, and you collect whatever volume you can
Right.
collect there, and that's good. But if you keep trying to jam money into that campaign to get your impression share up from, let's say, 50% to 90%, the diminishing return or the extra cash that's going to cost you to get that is going to actually could nuke your entire advertising program. And
Right.
so the mistake that I see folks make is they just, hey, this gave us bottom of funnel action. Let's just keep on dumping money and resources into this thing and imagine that it's an endless well. Whereas in reality, it's like a relatively small portion of the overall funnel. The
Right.
organizations that I see that do the best are the ones who start with a full funnel approach from the beginning. Like they're not going to ignore the bottom funnel. They're still going to go capture that stuff that's really good, but then they
Of
have a
course.
plan for resourcing the middle funnel. What's going to happen when someone is just researching their product or like researching their problem or how they're going to fix it? What about the very top people who like don't even know they have a problem yet? Like they haven't even thought about this, and this is going to enlighten them to understand, oh wow, I'm not thinking
Right.
about this in the right way. There's a way you can build a relationship with people in bulk and mass if you balance out your resourcing and your plan correctly. But I think a lot of founders, they just like everything is about pipeline. And so they're just super laser focused in on this thing, which again, they may have business needs that require it. And so I understand it sometimes when they do, but which is why I'm not purely saying it's a mistake. But I think it's a thing that most folks should do differently if they were able to really do it.
That makes a lot of sense. And it really does because it's easy to pour things into the bottom of the funnel because that's where it's easy. That's where you start getting some of those results. And then you hear it all the time. That used to work and it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the case. Of course, it still works, just that you've drained the
Yeah.
of
Exactly.
everybody that was in there that was the now buyers are out and you're capturing those. And yeah, there will still be more, but you really have to start earlier in that process and nurture them all the way down to that decision point. So capture them, just let them know that you're actually an option, and
Oh,
that's
sorry. Go ahead.
super important.
I was going to say one other thing. If I was going to call out one other mistake that I hear a lot or see a lot is folks just they focus so much on net new acquisition via their digital channels or via their upper funnel channels or whatever that they stop talking to their advocates. They have
Wow.
these customers that are incredible customers. They love the product. They will recommend. There'll be referrals. There'll be case studies for you, etc. And a ton of your, like almost always your best channel is word of mouth, like bar none. It's the
Yes.
highest converting channel. It's the most effective one if you can spread your word. And so it's shocking to me how often organizations of all sizes, they focus so hard on net new via digital acquisition that they like, if I'm like, okay, pull me a list of all of your advocates, most folks can't even do that in their CRM or their marketing automation tool. Like they don't have a way of identifying their advocates in the first place. It's often like
Wow.
super piecemeal. This salesperson said that, this salesperson said this,
Yeah.
let alone like a program that is designed to cultivate and nurture those relationships, especially for ABM programs that are trying to get access to enterprise level accounts, global like enterprises, etc. It's really hard to enter those accounts purely via a digital play. Like almost always you're going to get access via some introduction at a happy hour or something like that gets brokered by an advocate or someone that loves your product. And so I think if there was one mistake I would call it the most, it's like advocacy marketing is probably the most effective channel that you have. And it's also one that literally doesn't exist for most organizations.
I think that's something that it really is overlooked in just going out to your customers and making them the hero of the story, not you and not your product, but making them the hero of the story and featuring their transformation as advertising. That could be top or middle of funnel. and really get that story out there, highlighting them and their success. And then that just, you know, really opens up opportunities for other people to see that and say, hey, I want that too.
Totally. And honestly, just like in a very human centric way, just like staying in touch with the people that help you build your business. Like
Yeah.
this crew, like the hardcore of your customers that really love you and advocate for you, like they are what your business is built on, not the rest of the fluff, basically. And when times are hard, which from time again, going back to the gambling thing, they will sometimes be hard. Like you can't guarantee consistent success. Those are the ones that are going to stand by you. They're going to stand by your product. They're going to make a deal for you. I think about this crazy NVIDIA story. I don't know if you've heard this NVIDIA story where they got, I think Sony or Samsung hired them to make these chips, and they did like $10 million purchase order with them, and or maybe more even. And they didn't build the chips to spec. Like they screwed up and they built these chips all too large, and none of them would fit in the devices that they were assigned for.
Oops.
And they went back to, I think it was Samsung, and they said, if you hold us to this, we will go out of business tomorrow. Like we'll be dead. But if you give us another chance to like basically redo all of this stuff for you the right way, we will be the best supplier you've ever had for the history of your business. And there was a moment where it was entirely about trust. And I guarantee that some NVIDIA advocate inside of Samsung, if it was Samsung, was like stuck their neck out and was like, let's give Jensen another chance. I trust this person. Like, I think it will be okay. And the result, obviously, is that they delivered on their promise. They become this massive global company, like massive success story. But it almost certainly rested on one advocate within that company who made or broke the moment. And so I think it's so easy to get focused on net new acquisition that we forget, like when it really matters, like, have you called the people who give you referrals? Have you called the people who gave you that 5-star review on G2 or Capterra? Have you taken them out to dinner? Did you send them a gift on their birthday? They're marketing things, but they're also just like human things. And I think they're the key to making actual pipeline growth, especially for ABM and enterprise deals, like actually happen. And it's probably less sexy than what's the best tactical LinkedIn ad strategy. And we can talk about that too, but I think it's massively overlooked by almost every leader, every marketing leader, every founder, et cetera.
Yeah. In looking at just the go-to-market strategy, I mentioned product-led growth. You've mentioned ABM, account-based marketing, a couple of times, which I think is fantastic. That's the way to do enterprise for sure. What is the balance? A lot of SaaS companies are trying to do both. They've got some sort of PLG motion. They have an ABM motion that's all sales led. Yeah, and probably some stuff in between as well. And when they're trying to do both, where should the focus be to align brand, demand generation, and RevOps?
So the first thing that I look at for this question is what is the difference in value between any two leads or accounts that you might be going after?
Probably a lot.
If it's a lot, like if it's okay, we have the potential to do a deal with IBM for 10 million, or we have the potential to do a deal with Joe's Crab Shack for 10,000. Like if that's the case, then I think leaning into ABM as a program makes sense, right? Like you want to allocate your resources towards the highest return. And that means like in this case, like going for the deals that really move the needle, change the face of your business. On the other hand, if it's IBM is worth 20,000, but Joe's Crab Shack is worth 10,000, in that case, you might not do an ABM program. Like you might just stick with the demand generation approach where you're like, hey, all of our leads are roughly similar in value and we're just trying to get leads. Totally reasonable. And also you can do more than one for what it's worth. You might have an ABM approach for a series of extremely high value accounts and then a lead generation approach for the long tail of very similar types of accounts. And then if you have a product that lends itself to it, which is like to say that it allows people to easily engage with it on their own, interact with it, doesn't require a ton of immediate sales presence, then I think a product-led growth approach is amazing. Like it's an incredibly user-centric way of trying to get people to develop a relationship with your product, as well as to get amazing feedback, a bunch of good data. Like it's a really good, if you can swing it, it's a really good approach. So I think like one example of this, we have one client who is a like multi-billion-dollar enterprise who has run all three at the same time. Like they have an entry point on a PLG motion. Hey, come try our software. It's a free demo if you get 10 days or whatever. And then at the end of it, we'll nurture you into trying to being a customer. And they use that as an access point for any size of company because they would work with anyone. There's a traditional lead gen approach, which is, hey, there's tons of companies that are all roughly the same in value to us. Like we're going to run campaigns at them. And then they have, hey, we've got 200 accounts that are super, super important to us. And we really want to nurture and develop those accounts. I don't think there's any reason you couldn't do all three other than resource constraint.
Sure.
But when it's most organizations are resource constrained, this one a little bit less so because they're so big. But for folks that are resource constrained, I usually just start with what is the value of our customers, like the lifetime value of our customers, and what is the best way that we will likely acquire them. You're probably not going to land IBM from a purely PLG approach. Like it's probably just going to be difficult to do. On the other hand, if IBM is not any different to you than some small business, like no problem, go PLG, go demand gen, do both, etc. So I think it's really about thinking about how, like, what is the actual buying case? Like, how will your customers actually decide to buy your product, and then making your go-to-market motion aligned in that way. Ton of detail in the specifics of what does it mean to then hook up your RevOps, your demand gen, etc., to support those motions. Happy to go into those details, but I usually just start from what is the user or customer experience and go from there.
That's a really good place to start in understanding that. But just at the very beginning, understanding what is the value of a lead. And for a lot of companies, it does vary widely because their messaging is super broad and they haven't focused in on anything smaller.
Yeah, niche. I mean, depends how much of a niche you want to dig into. If you want to be an enterprise company, a solution, or a mid-market solution, or both. And all these could be totally reasonable depending on your product and what you do. But yeah, I think there's an important step there, which is to define your audience. When we go through so often when we get hired, folks come in and they're like, we want to run ads. Let's start getting pipeline.
Of course you do.
Yeah. And when we first started, by the way, like we've been now an agency for almost 13 years, next month, 13 years. When we first started, we would just say yes to this. We would just go ahead and say, sure, we'll run your ads. Today, we actually ask a lot of these questions first now. Do you have a clean definition of your audience? Does your go-to-market motion align with your audience? Are you trying to run ABM programs at Joe's Crab Shack or PLG programs at IBM? Are these things that will be like fatal flaws in any attempt to actually run an ad program? Because if you don't get your ducks in a row, starting at the bottom level with your brand and your content ideas, to your website and your digital experience ideas, to your data systems and all these things, if you don't build the pyramid first, pretty likely you're just going to light all that money on fire. And so we'd rather have you spend your money on building infrastructure that will last you for 5 years or 10 years and not just spend your money on like the gambling in Google and LinkedIn without a great chance of success.
That's definitely refreshing to hear. And we talked about this before, that a lot of agencies I want to run ads. Okay, cool. We'll run ads and we'll get started. Here's the budget. Here's the ad. And we just go. And that it's very different. I love that you're asking the questions and really getting things dialed in first, instead of just, maybe ads are not even the right place to start.
Totally.
Maybe it's defining the brand. Maybe it's defining your audience. Maybe there's some other assets that you need before we run ads. You get ads. What do you do with the leads when they come in? If that process is broken, it doesn't really matter if you have great ads. So,
yeah.
Is that something you work with as well?
Totally. So we really work from end to end, starting from the initial brand impression, or like the work that you're going to do on defining your brand message, your content messaging documents, your visual identity, like all those things. We run all the way through the representation of that identity and digital experience, so like your website, your ad sets, your landing pages, your email templates, your data systems, your reporting, attribution, analytics, etc., all the way into then eventually the pipeline generation stuff. Like that, and that, like your ads, your SEO, your email marketing, your programmatic content syndication, direct mail, outreach, etc. Like we do those things. So but the thing is that I think is tricky is this all came from the school of hard knocks, right? Like we didn't just start asking these questions or like declining business or things like that. Like we started by thinking that we could just be able to be successful doing the best we could without having organized those things first. And I will say also that it's not a perfect world. Like we often, let's say we get acquired or like people want to engage with us to work at a large enterprise. Generally, large enterprises don't have this ability to centralize a go-to-market in the same way. There's 10 different teams that all own pieces of it. Maybe 3 different teams own Salesforce. And just like the idea that we're going to get in there and streamline Salesforce might be like a 2-year project that like would require 30 people to approve. On the
Right.
other hand, like I love working with kind of the mid-market startups because they have the tech stack, they've got the budget to grow with, but they just need to like move quickly and fix it all. And so I think there's different kind of experiences depending on the size of the company that we're working with. But I will say this definitely all came from us trying, getting blamed, getting fired, starting over, heads at the drawing board. Maybe we actually need to handle the data ourselves, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Many years of iteration for sure.
What if a leadership book and a Netflix drama had a baby? That is The Captain's Keys, Storms, Emotional Wreckage, and a surprisingly practical leadership system that one CEO called the owner's manual and never got for 20 years of leadership. Here is the brutal truth. You're probably drowning in LinkedIn connections while starving for real relationships. I hear it all the time. Most leaders are exhausted from playing the lone hero, and it's killing both your results and your sanity. The Captain's Keys reveals a new leadership framework, the stability matrix, 4 specific relationships that prevent burnout while multiplying your impact. And this isn't just theory. It's a system that I've used to scale companies and taught over 1,000 executive leaders. So grab your copy today at thecaptainskeys.com, Amazon, or choose your own adventure, print, ebook, or audio. Stop drowning alone and build your stability matrix. Well, thinking about brand, how should founders think about brand versus maybe features and the product? The company and the product, should they be the same, like synonymous? Should they be separate? Or how do you think about going to market that way and promoting the brand?
I love this question because this is like super top of mind for me and has been for about a year since I listened to Liquid Death, the brand Liquid Death, like the
Yes, yeah, the water,
canned
water,
water.
yeah,
Yeah. There's an amazing podcast that features the founder of Liquid Death where he's talking about how he was like an experienced brand marketer before founding Liquid Death. And he's talking about his idea going into this. And part of it, he says, you got to start a company, you have to be, everyone has to tell you it's a stupid idea. Because if everyone tells you it's a good idea, then it's probably not that good of an idea. But
yeah.
if everyone tells you it's a stupid idea, then it's 99% it's a stupid idea, but 1% it's a great idea. But from there, he says this nugget, which I love forever, which he says, your brand cannot be your function.
Mm,
And he proves it this way with the water company by being like, I sell water. It is
yeah.
the commodity. Like it is the original commodity. And every other water company sells fundamentally the same thing that I sell. So my brand can't be that like, oh, my water is especially delicious or particularly cold or something like that. Like it's
My bubbles are the perfect
yeah,
size and
exactly.
texture.
It's water. So people are going to buy from me because they're going to resonate with me. Like they're going to resonate with something that is not our function. Because at the end of the day, any and all functions could be commoditized. If you think you have the most brilliant software on earth and it's incredibly unique and you possess some special values that no one else could do, it's not that they couldn't do, it's they don't want to right now. And if you became big enough, people will want to and they'll compete with you on your functions.
Of course.
So, what is the thing to think about when you're trying to develop a brand? And that is, in my opinion, has to be your personality or your values or something that is distinctly yours that someone can connect with emotionally. If you think about like really successful brands, Nike, you have never seen a Nike advertisement that talks about their shoes. Like they
Nope.
talk about what it means to be great. Their ethos is about like inspiring greatness in sports. And it's something that everyone can relate to. You connect with it. You recognize the brand immediately from that. And you've never once
Yep.
thought about whether their rubber on their shoes was squishier or less squishy than Adidas, whatever it is. So I think that idea of your brand not being your function is really important. And I want to say one other thing about brand on this question too, which is a really common thing. I don't know, Joe, are you a football fan? I don't know if you like football or
Of
not.
course. I live in Dallas, so a Cowboys fan all my life, and
Cool.
this year is gonna be the year. Every year I say that. I've been wrong for 20 plus years now, and
One day the Glory Days could come back. I remember the America's team from the 90s.
yeah, that's
Like
right.
this is
Yeah,
good
it's
stuff.
gonna be the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was a football player for a long time also. And you see this thing that happens in football, especially pro football right now, which is, I call it the head coach paradox or the problem, the head coach problem. So if you get the ball and it's 4th and 2, I don't know, say the third quarter, something like that. Almost always, let's say it's on the 40-yard line, either one doesn't matter. Almost always the math is very clear that you're supposed to go for it. You're supposed to take the risk because you will actually earn more points per game by going for it than you will by punting. And you will win more games by having more points. The math is incredibly clear, but it's changed a little bit recently, but still the vast majority of coaches are punting. And the
Right.
reason why they're punting is because no one ever got fired for punting.
That's true.
The incentives are out of whack. You win slightly more games on average by going for it, but you get fired far more often if you go for it and get unlucky. That like the incentives don't align for the coach to do the theoretically correct move. So the reason why I'm talking about this problem is that this problem exists in branding like a crazy amount, in something that is the same way that coaches herd to this like safe solution of punting. Brand marketers and CEOs and CMOs, they herd towards brand safety, which basically means look like everyone else.
Yeah.
If you stand out, it could go badly. It's true. It could go badly if you stand out. But if you stand out and are correct and get lucky and win, you're going to win far more often than your competition, who all will seem extremely generic. There's a
Yes.
reason why rock stars don't wear jeans and a t-shirt in general. Like they wear crazy outfits because they are bold and they're standing out and they're like making. Prince is my favorite. Like Prince is unmistakable. You cannot confuse Prince. Like his brand was incredible, like incredibly powerful and strong because of how much he stood out. And so I
Yes.
think when I talk to CEOs and leaders on these things, if you want to have a viral brand, like one that people buy from just because they love the brand, you got to be weird. You got to be deeply yourself. You got to differentiate yourself very thoroughly. It needs to be like unmistakable, your experience versus other experiences. And to cap this off, like we did a pitch on this last year where we had a company that was working data, and we showed them, we took their like the header of their website, like the hero image of their website, removed the logo, and did that for 5 of their competitors. There's 6 different companies that just had their
Which is which?
frame on the top. And they would all say something like faster data, better intelligence, that kind of thing. And we mixed them all up and put them in different orders. And we asked them to say which one was which, including their own. Which one's yours? And they couldn't do it. And also, this is the key part, we didn't get the job. Their brand remains exactly the same today as it was when we did that pitch, because it's so scary to stick your neck out. So anyway, I'm on a rant now, so I'll stop my rant here. But I have a lot of strong feelings about like how to brand a company correctly, and it's be bold, take risks, don't talk about your product or your service, talk about your personality, your ethos, like who you are really.
Yeah. So important. And I think that's a great test, and anybody can do that listening. Just take your competitors' collateral, take your collateral, and swap the names.
Yeah.
Does it still hold?
Yeah.
Can you stick your logo on theirs? Can you stick their logo on yours? And take 3 or 4 competitors, stick all their logos on there. Would it work if to put their logo on your marketing material? And if it would, you got a problem.
Yeah, totally. It's not an existential problem at first. It's sneaky because it looks like, okay, we're competing. It's all similar. But it
That's
is
a
an
commodity.
existential problem because eventually someone's going to stand out and then they're going
Yeah.
to kick your ass.
Yep.
You might
Yep.
as well be that person. You might as well take the shot at it.
I love the water example because it is so ubiquitous. It is the ultimate commodity.
Yep.
And if you go down to any store and look at the waters on the shelves, 90% of them look the same, and maybe a few of them are a little bit different and they stand out because their bottle is square because they're just cool that way. And then you see Liquid Death, and that is one that is unmistakable. They have a true brand where all of the other ones, it's water.
Yep. They're making jokes like he was laughing about it on the podcast, like they have fans.
Yeah.
They're a water company that has fans. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's a great example.
Yeah. It really is. And it's just a really good example, very visual to actually go and look at that and think about that in your own business. How am I standing out compared to my competitors, or am I just a round bottle or a square bottle
Yeah,
that all look the
exactly.
same? If we're putting together a marketing campaign and really working on demand gen, how do we do that? How many assets do we need? Do we need a lot of things for them to choose from because we don't know what's really going to resonate? Kind of let them pick and choose their own adventure, or should it be more guided?
Great question. We actually just built this like maturity model for go to markets that starts with a base level and goes from what's the base level you need to succeed to good, better, and best. And I think on a base level, you need like a couple, probably no more than two good assets at each stage of the funnel. So you need at the bottom of the funnel, like a good, first and foremost, a good offer, like something that people would find compelling to want to engage with you on. And then usually like a case study or some kind of proof that like social proof that you're good at this. In the middle funnel, something engaging that someone would want to download. Are you having this problem? We came up with a guide and a solution for you to solve it, that kind of thing. And usually no more than about two of those ads or of those assets rather. And then the upper funnel, ideally you've got like one or two like good videos that are engaging and interactive and let people get to know your brand personality and like the kinds of things that they might get from you. There's often like written content, blogs, that kind of thing as well, but videos just kick the crap out of everything else. So I would say at most to start, you need those six pieces: two in the top, two in the middle, two in the bottom. You can get away with one of each conceptually, but as a starting place, like you need those things. One of the mistakes I see a lot of folks make is they just churn out tons and tons of pieces and none of them are good.
Yeah, it's easier than ever now to do that,
Totally.
and I think it was just content overload everywhere.
Totally. And so I would much rather focus on, can we make just a few of them that are really good, that pass the threshold test of, I personally would want to read this or engage in this if I came across it on the internet. And so I start there. More mature organizations ideally are developing a consistent stream of good content, ideally good topical content that will be informative. So like a good example of this, we work with a computer security company. Like last year, a couple of years ago, there was like a really well-known big like hack that happened in like some software. And they were able to produce content incredibly fast that just spoke directly to that thing. Like it happened on Tuesday and they had an article about it on Friday or something like that. And
Wow.
so, that's like a very mature organization that's able to produce this kind of like quality content in real time. But for most organizations, it's okay, can we just get our base templates to start? For a lot of startups, like just getting those baselines started is enough to then direct your focus somewhere else and like work on increasing the maturity of some other part of your business. Okay, like we fixed the asset problem, let's go fix the data problem, or let's go fix the advertising problem, or whatever it is. So I think that's the right place to start. But once you get going, like there's no such thing as having too many quality assets. So like our big global clients, like giant clients, they're producing dozens of assets per quarter. And we're just trying to see what resonates. Now, some of them will be better than others. Like some of them will be like, okay, we spent infinite money and got this Gartner Magic Quadrant report or something like that. That will get a ton of budget and a ton of emphasis or something like that. But as a mid-market or a startup type of company, you don't need to do that. Just like do two to start and then add one really good one every quarter for a year and you'll be in great shape to market yourselves, in my opinion.
I like that. Simplicity. So it's not necessarily we need to go create a whole bunch of stuff, but I like that two, two, and two, thinking about different funnel stages.
There's some value for SEO to produce a regular stream of on-site content. So I don't want to overly dismiss that. I think that
Yeah.
is like does a good thing for developing authority for your brand in organic search. But most folks who are asking that question, Jeff, are not thinking about like my 6 to 12 month domain authority profile. Like they're thinking about what can I do to drive pipeline right away?
What can I
Yeah,
get to leads coming in the door today?
yeah, exactly.
How many clicks can I get?
Yeah, exactly. Writing a bunch of blogs is awesome, but it's also probably not going to give you immediate pipeline impact the way that like, hey, we developed a great asset that we feel comfortable running ads to. Like we could start seeing leads tomorrow from that asset. Whereas, okay, we wrote 10 blogs. We hope that one of them catches Google's attention and that we increase our rank from number 14 to number 8 on this term in 6 months. It's a little bit of a different type of ballgame.
Yeah. Marketing teams definitely want qualified leads in the door fast, but at the same time, they don't want to wreck their brand long term. How do they balance that? What's the best place to invest, let's say in the next 90 days, if they want more qualified pipeline?
There are only a few media that can give you fast results. Every channel, every type of media has its own characteristics. The fast ones are paid advertising, where you can put an ad online this afternoon and put some budget behind it and people will see it and that will drive traffic. The downside, of course, is cost. Like you have to pay for it. There's some other upsides, like it gives you incredibly good data visibility and there's like good targeting and flexibility and so forth. But like the moral of the story is it's fast, but it's expensive. But it is also endless. Like you could spend infinite, you could capture tons of impressions. There's really rarely limitation to how much you could advertise if you wanted to.
Yeah.
The other fast one that comes to mind immediately is email. So emails are essentially ads. Like you can drop an email ad functionally in someone's inbox this afternoon if you want to. Pull up a
Yes.
list, send an email, cool. That has no immediate cost. Like you don't have to pay per email generally, but it has hidden costs. Like it has costs to your domain, to your reputation. There's spam issues. It could be illegal. There are issues that exist with email as well. So email is fast as well, but it's kind of limited in the ways that like who you can actually send it to and like how likely it is to get engagement and so forth. And there's not really the kinds of targeting you might want to do are a little bit more challenging. You have to do some like first party or third party stuff that you may have to pay for and blah, blah, blah. But as far as going fast, email and ads, there's nothing that will compete with those for short-term results. Maybe the only other one I would say is field in terms of speed, which is if there is a meetup, a conference, whatever that is happening in some place next week that's relevant to you, you could go to that thing and you'd have some chance of generating business from a sales team or a field marketing team, like just trying to start conversations in immediate fashion. So that's honestly it when it comes to doing things quickly. And I guess in email, I would also include like sales, emails, outreach, that kind of thing. Like I'm including all that in the email bucket.
Okay.
The other media tend to be slower. So the other ones that might come to mind are like organic social, developing a presence on a relevant platform to your audience. So B2B community, LinkedIn is the biggest one around. But if
Right.
you're in a B2C community or even some B2B like Meta, Instagram, TikTok, developing a presence. If you're maybe like have a specialty community in places like Reddit or Quora, there are areas that you can get free, high quality, high value targeted impressions to an audience that you'd want to sell to. It just takes effort and work, and it's got a longer time horizon. And I feel very similarly to organic social, or sorry, organic search rather, which is you put in a bunch of work to turn your website into a hub of knowledge. Like I want people looking for answers to come find me. Google recognizes that this is now actually like also ChatGPT and other like research agents will be like, okay, like this is a good source of information. And over time, they start to direct more and more traffic to your website to get answers. Super valuable long-term way of acquiring business, getting relationships at no cost per click or cost per search, but takes time. So for most folks who are in the shoes of, hey, I need to drive pipeline in 90 days, that's what I need to do. I would say, get your assets in order. First and foremost, get your brand and your brand message in order. Make sure you have a compelling offer and a compelling audience and so forth. Get your assets in order and then put them on ads. And if you have an engaged email list of people that want to receive your content, send them emails to promote this new content that you're producing. That's the high speed mechanism to get pipeline like right away. But like we said at the very beginning of this conversation, you got to be careful about draining the well. You can do that at the beginning. You can capture all of the bottom funnel engagement and interest that there is pretty quickly. And then it's what happens after that. And that's where I think having that organic social, having the organic search presence, having just a bigger brand presence can go a long way.
That's good. If a founder wants to improve their go-to-market motion without hiring a CRO tomorrow or even fractional, what's one strategic question they should be asking internally that will help them move forward?
It's a great question. I think I would start by trying to define the buying circumstance at the company they're going to buy from them, like their potential customer.
So good.
Put yourself in the room. Like, what is happening? What are the words that they are using? How are they discussing it? Who are the stakeholders involved? What are their roles and titles? Get just a really clear picture of what it means to be a buyer. The most common trap that I see in marketing in general is just thinking about your product from your perspective, using the words that your team uses to describe their product,
Right.
instead of like, how do people on the street actually talk about this problem? And so I think I would always start there. So actually, I had a client who was really struggling because they had the highest performing product on the market, and they had the cheapest product on the market. And so they were trying to, which you would think would be a tremendous advantage, right? They were trying to market themselves as both. And if they would have,
Nobody believes that.
if they would have sat in the room or like thought about how their customers were thinking about it, their customers would say something like, we either need to get a premium solution, which we have to expect to pay a lot of money for, or we need to get a bargain solution, which may not have all the features that we need. And so that's how we're going to look at this. And we're going to make a choice between going premium or going bargain. And their product didn't fit into either of those things. It was like, it's not a premium one because it didn't cost enough. And it's not a bargain one because it does too much stuff. And so that no one actually knew how to resonate with their product. And so I think that question of what is your buying committee actually doing? What are they actually talking about? What are their real problems? I would start there. Everything waterfalls downhill from that.
Really good. Where can people learn more about you online?
Yeah, I think the best place to find info about me these days is just like following me on LinkedIn or connecting with me. And I'm also super happy. Like, I read all my DMs. Like, I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn directly if that's interesting for folks. I also would say coming to our website, digitalreachagency.com, we have, I'm actually going to be doing at the time of this filming later on this afternoon, doing a webinar talking through our new go-to-market maturity model, which we're actually giving away for free. If you want to get a sense of where is my organization relative to how mature other organizations might be, or what are the benchmarks I need to think about, or the kind of like milestones to get to greater maturity across a bunch of different parts of the go-to-market, we'll have that for free on our website. We'll have it for free. We'll be putting it on LinkedIn. I'm happy to share that as well. So I would say, yeah, follow me on LinkedIn, and I hope to connect with you.
Outstanding. We'll make sure to link that in the show notes. Andrew, such a great conversation. Thanks for being on SaaS Fuel.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Jeff. Thank you.
Thanks again, Andrew, for coming on the show and sharing your journey and insights. You can learn more about Andrew and Digital Reach Agency at digitalreachagency.com. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And be sure to check us out on YouTube as well. Full video episodes, outtakes, training, shorts, reels, all sorts of stuff over there for you. And that is at Champion Leadership on YouTube. Thought leaders share. Are you one? I bet you are. Share this episode with your smartest friends. It's one of those conversations they'll want to rewind and dissect. And they're going to hear this and know that you are their smartest friend. So maybe they'll forward it on, and maybe they'll send it back to you too. Everyone who shares this week gets a cupcake frosted with ambition, filled with hustle, and sprinkled with a Series A term sheet. 0 calories, infinite traction. How do you turn technical insights into captivating communication and $1 million risk into $1 billion opportunity? Next up, Patricia Fripp, Hall of Fame keynote speaker and communication coach to Fortune 500 execs, shares how to elevate your pitch and make every single word count. Then 1 week from today, we sit down with Rahul Pangam, founder of Rapid Canvas and former VP at PayPal. Rahul reveals how no-code AI is transforming fraud prevention and what it takes to scale from startup to a $120 million acquisition. Who wouldn't want to know that? I will see you next time, and as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSFuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.
Let's go!